Coming up in episode 43.
So Girls Rock Camp Houston is a 1-week summer camp for female-identified persons ages 8 through 18. And during the week, we provide musical instruction. The youth form a band, they write an original song, and they perform it live at a live music venue to a general audience.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Little Radio Show. My name is Sandra Fernandez, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Juan Alanis and Angelica Casares, and we're bringing you small talk about big topics. This week, we take a look at several graduation topics, including one heartwarming story about a student who drove all the way to Houston from Boston to take her mom to her Harvard graduation. We also have an interview with Ana Garza and Muna Javaid of Girls Rock Camp. Just a reminder, you can catch us every week on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central Time on hmsnetradio.org. Our show archives and the link to our iTunes and Stitcher channels are available at thelittleradioshow.com. So thank you for joining us once again for another episode of The Little Radio Show. As you know, my name is Sandra Fernandez, and I'm one of the hosts of the show.
Hey guys, this is Angelica. No FYI. Let me introduce you to this beautiful beast here, Juan.
Beautiful beast! Oh my god, I'm cutting that.
All right. And on that note, this is Juan Alanis, your third co-host, and welcome to the Little Radio Show.
And this is this week's, in case you missed it. I believe that this week we actually have graduation topics. Most schools have already had their graduation ceremonies in May, but today is a nice recap of a couple of things that we saw, and I'm going to let Juan start out.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring up a couple of posts that I've seen on social media that were graduation related, and they have to do with what's being called, some of them are there's like the undocu movement or the undocumented. It's undocumented students who are graduating, so a lot of them are DACA students who are graduating, and their parents, in the case of Norma Torres Mendoza, who's 25 and she's getting her master's in public policy from Harvard University. She's graduating soon. But her mother's undocumented, so she can't fly. So Norma is making the almost 4,000-mile trek all the way down from Harvard to Houston to pick up her mom, which, by the way, Carmen, if you're out there, we want to interview you. We really want to talk to you. And Norma, we'd love to talk to you both. But I think that to me, that's like such an incredible, gesture from a daughter to a mother, because it's like she's acknowledging so much, the sacrifice that her mother made for her to be able to be the success that she is, or to be graduating from Harvard. So, I just wanted to highlight that. And then there was another student who I saw on social media and whose picture I actually shared because I thought it was pretty interesting. It was shared through Pocho One Photography, which is an online social media photographer who takes a lot of pictures. But I'll read you the caption of what this particular picture says, and it says, "Powerful. Selena Gonzalez's story and message to Trump," Donald Trump, obviously. And so it says, "Donald Trump, this was the day that my high school graduation day on June 7th, 2015. My father, David Gonzalez, was not there to see me walk and receive my diploma. That day he was working like every other day of the week. He works in agriculture farming. I am a Latina, and my parents are Latinos working for the American dream. I had to go to him so he could see me, his hard work paying off, giving him proof that what he has taught me. Your words don't have nothing against his sweat." Excuse my reading, but you get the message. I mean, I think it's powerful that the single picture, to me, when I saw it, it was very powerful. So it's the young girl Selena in the fields with her father, where he has he has a shovel in his hand and he's like working because he wasn't able to go. And to me, that picture just says so much. And so I just wanted to highlight these two students because I think that they represent a lot of people like them who feel very strongly about, yes, I'm undocumented, but that doesn't mean that I'm not American.
Yeah. Pictures, my mom, it doesn't matter what we're celebrating, is always going to make us take a group picture. You know what I'm talking about, the one where you're all standing around looking uncomfortable with that smile plastered on your face, hoping that the person who's taking the photo will just finish taking the photo so you can stop smiling. Yeah. She does this every time. I think every waiter who has ever waited on us as a family has had to take a picture of us with someone's phone, because my mom really, really loves to have these photographs. But, there's something really great about seeing photos of other people. I understand we only show photos of the best stuff, but it's really nice to see the best stuff, because good stuff still happens to people.
And sometimes it's a good reminder, just like, hey, that like that's a nice moment, and and it also reminds you sometimes, like, hey, I should like take a moment to really appreciate those moments in my own life.
It does take a moment that you can just like, for example, the kids in our family are growing up, and they're growing up way too fast, and each one, there's a graduation every year from now on. And I look back at the pictures of my older nieces graduating, and you don't remember those moments until you see the pictures. You don't, because you don't really think of them, and then it dawns on you the accomplishments, there's more to life than accomplishments of graduation, but that here now is a part of our life.
But it's a big milestone in there.
It is a milestone, but it is a big part of our American life, our life here, as so those remind us of those moments. And I have cousins in Wisconsin, and they share their pictures of their family, and those pictures. My cousin opened up a restaurant, and it was on the news, and it was in print. It was in the newspaper, and we can celebrate now. All the way from here, we can celebrate with her, and so those pictures are momentous, and they're huge with the huge accomplishments. Graduation and all kinds of other stuff. So. Yay to your mom for making you take the picture, Sandra.
And like, we have a picture at my house, at our house, that's my sister, that she didn't want to take a graduation picture, so we made her take pictures, and then we doctored the pictures to be like a graduation picture. And the picture is like standing, it's on my wall, and every time I look at it, I chuckle to myself, because I'm like, I remember making her take the picture, because I was like, you have to have a graduation picture. It's going to be a memory.
But to me, the pose pictures are fine. They're great. My niece's quinceañera, we have all these wonderful pictures. I have a cousin of mine who got married in Detroit, and I'm going to say it's been at least 10 years. And it looks like a family reunion, this big, huge picture that we all took. And these are wonderful too, but my favorite are usually the ones that I take of candid moments, of my brother and trying to teach my niece how to dance, or my mom grabbing my nephew and then just scrunching him up, or my nephew and some cousins breaking cascarrones on each other's heads and just running around the backyard, or one of my brothers-in-law dousing, his wife in confetti as she stands underneath him, and the confetti is just falling around her. Stuff like that. Yeah. Those are some of my favorite photographs.
I'm so grateful for the fact that we can now hear. I would have loved to have such a thing to do when I was 12, 13 years old, but we can now do video. I have cards, small cards from old phones, and I found a few of them, and I went back and I looked at the footage of some of these cards, and some of my nephews are tiny, running around in diapers, and I think, you were so wonderful. I mean, they're beautiful now, but they were even cuter then.
But there's a lot of emotion in that. Like, there's a lot of emotion in the pictures, and there's a lot of emotion in, like you said, capturing those like unexpected moments where you're not posing for selfie, but it's just like, it's just a nice moment where you capture like something that was happening, naturally, and you just.
I believe there's a conversation that took place a long time ago. I remember having this conversation with somebody, and my mom and some of her sisters do this till now, is when they take pictures, they stay still. There's no movement. There's an old picture of my great grandfather where he's like, there's a backdrop behind him, and he's just, his hands very like beside him in a very stern, forced face, and I think to myself, like, what kind of person was he? Who was he? Like, there's a lot little, and that was
those old pictures. They couldn't. The reason that they didn't smile is because they had to stand there for an hour. Who can smile for an hour while this picture develops?
Well, that was a thing with cameras. They did have to stand there for a long time, but these pictures they did. When he was taking pictures, I believe they couldn't be because of the flash, because of the light had to capture it, and the way it was processed.
But you know,
And,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But like at my family, like we've gotten to the point where like usually it would be like something would happen or somebody's birthday, and then it was like a photo shoot like afterwards. Like,
Yeah,
like, you know, 10, 20 pictures, and
those
my brother
pictures that you talk about, Sandra, that's what they do over
and
here.
my brother would get so frustrated, like, oh my god, another photo session, and then he would be like, but I think now it's kind of grown on him, and I think it's grown on all of us. So we're kind of like, all right, let's go stand. With
well,
the
you know what happened. What we did last year is we went for near the 4th of July to one of those hotels with the theme park and whatever, right? And it was both my sisters, their kids, other cousins, whatever. What I did is I just had everyone give me or, you know, dump their photos on a Dropbox and pulled them all into one box and then just shared them with everybody.
Yeah.
And see, I still have pictures that my mom's pictures from when she was younger, my siblings were younger, like that she had in her house and then she didn't take with her. I still have those pictures and I keep them, and I go back every once in a while and I look through them just to see what they're, you know, how those pictures are, and, you know, just to remind myself, because I think they take me back. And I'm just a big fan of like emotion in pictures or pictures that evoke emotions. And to me, this picture by both of these, well, actually by Selena, the one that I was talking about earlier, I think that was just very, it just evoked a lot of emotion when you looked at it. And that's, you know, really what to me makes a great picture.
I don't know. I analyze everything, so, and especially pictures. So I looked at that picture. I don't think it evoked the same thing that it evoked me. I definitely love the message behind it. But the picture itself, yeah.
And that's this week's In Case You Missed It. If you're just tuning in, this is the Little Radio Show on hmsnetradio.org. So I'm going to ask a question as a person who knows absolutely nothing about why you were invited to today's thing. Here's my question is, Girls Rock Camp. I'm going to assume that has absolutely nothing to do with Little Pebbles in the Road.
Correct.
So what is Girls Rock Camp?
So Girls Rock Camp Houston is a 1-week summer camp for female identified persons ages 8 through 18. And during the week, we provide musical instruction. The youth form a band, they write an original song, and they perform it live at a live music venue to a general audience.
Well, that's really cool. This is a day camp or a go-away camp?
Day camp.
And how many years have you been running this?
7 years.
So, on average, about how many girls actually attend the camp?
Let's see. I would say 75 to 80.
That's a lot of girls.
That is a lot of girls. Is it several? Like weeks throughout the summer? Is it just one go?
We're an all volunteer-based organization, and we all have full-time jobs. So for now, it's only 1 week per summer per year.
Oh, awesome! I read on the website that you guys do little events or little to actually get awareness out there about Girls Rock Camp. Do the girls also perform there, or do they?
Sometimes, if we're invited to perform at events, we'll put together a band of alumni campers and work with them to get them performance ready.
And is it only girls that are in the camp? And if so, is there a reason why? Like only girls? Like is there a lack of women in music?
Yes, and yes.
Well, not according to the quote from the Houston Press that Angelica just read.
Well, no, as I mentioned before we actually started the interview, that the sufferers kind of came to the limelight on a national level, and that kind of sparked the article within itself on the Houston Press. And I was reading the article, and I was fascinated not only by Girls Rock Camp, but by a lot of things that were being said, but especially because of Girls Rock Camp, because it's an initiative to show empowerment to these young girls who are very interested in the music industry. And there is more to the music industry than just being the singer. And that's what I believe Girls Rock Camp is all about, their initiative. Am I right?
So what's the objective of the camp?
To empower girls.
So Anna Garza had the pleasure of bringing in actually one of her volunteers that also coordinates and helps. If you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about it.
Sure. My name's Muna Javed. I am the program coordinator. I'm doing the volunteer coordinating as well. We give ourselves titles, but it's a collective process.
Yeah, same
and
here.
I've been with the camp since 2009, which was the beginning of basically the whole organization. We all met together, at Beavers. There was 4 of us. It was me, Anna, and Linda and Diana who are a part of the band, the My Dolls, who are an all-women rock band from Houston, from way back in the day. And basically, it is a rock camp, but we consider ourselves like an empowerment camp or a feminist camp, and we are very politicized. I've done workshops on gender identity and
when you say an
social
empowerment
justice.
camp, what do you mean by an empowerment camp? Like, what is the ultimate, I guess, goal of how you're empowering these young women through music?
So we use music as a vehicle to empower these girls, but empowerment comes in all forms, and we just happen to use music as a vehicle to do that. But self-esteem, body image, gender identity, politics, these are all really important aspects of the process for these girls to be empowered. So we talk about things all across the board. I mean, social justice, Black Lives Matter.
And when you forward together and you guys just said, hey, we should start this girls' camp rock. What was it? What was that conversation like that you said, let's do this?
Well, I think that in terms of music in general and the availability of instruments and gear, these are things that because of the patriarchy, sexism, they're not as available for girls. And so that's why you see a lack of women in the scene, because they're not really included. So we want to give them a space where they can feel like these things are accessible to them.
So it has a little bit to do, I imagine, with lack of resources. And I only say that because I remember one of my sisters, she plays the violin, but the only reason she plays is because, none of my older siblings had the means to be able to pay for a music instructor, and when she was younger at that age, I was able to pay for her to go to a music instructor. So she was able to learn how to play a musical instrument that nobody else in the family was able to. So I'd imagine that's a unique case. It
is, and also I say this like in terms of the sexism and patriarchy because even something as simple as walking into an instrument shop or a music store and women not being addressed or not being approached or even being acknowledged, and so these are the kind of things that kind of inhibit women and young girls from being a part of that process because they're just not
they're not encouraged.
So the music industry still is male-dominated.
Yes.
And because that's one of those things everyone keeps thinking, oh, well, women have come so far, etc. But there are very many industries, really, where women still, it's not even a question of being second-class citizens, so below the mark in question of power and authority and access and equal pay and all this other stuff. So let's talk about what that looks like a little. If I am a 13-year-old girl and all I want to do is get into music, whatever kind of music, what are some of the challenges I'm going to be looking at?
So just to piggyback off of Juan said, my experience was similar to your sister's. My family was very poor, and so I wasn't able to be in band or orchestra. I had to do choir because it was free. And so the idea behind the camp is to eliminate the obstacles and challenges for young girls to be able to play music. You don't have an instrument, we gotcha. We provide all the instruments. You can't afford to come to the camp, we have scholarships available. You don't know how to play an instrument, we provide musical instruction. And so that's kind of how we want to help facilitate that process.
That's so cool.
And how has that experience been to see, like, I imagine you've been doing this for years now.
For 2009. Since 2009. That's quite some years.
Right. See the students that are kind of progressing and how they're growing. What is that experience like?
Amazing.
Yeah, I can
only
imagine.
To watch the transition when they first walk in the door and they're very introverted and shy. And it's only a week, and just see that transformation in 1 week is really an amazing experience.
I'm assuming, I know some girls take up writing, some girls take up other things, but it's so unique. Music actually brings you out, because when you're writing for yourself. But music, it's like public speaking. It's you're playing the instrument in front of people, you're showing, and you're kind of putting yourself out there. So I can only imagine the empowerment that I, as a 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old would have when I actually pick up a guitar for the first time and I can play the smallest strings, you know. I'm not into music, so I don't even know the terminology. But
You're
to
not
be
into
able to play
playing
something,
music, you're into music.
no, I am into music. Actually, I am. But what intrigued me about the Girls Rock Camp is actually the article. Do you believe that Houston is taking its approach and is doing its due diligence to actually facilitate such things like girls like into music and empowering them? Do you see that you're getting backed by the Houston culture, scene, placement?
Absolutely. Just the fact that other organizations raise funds so we can exist is a sign of solidarity and support. So yeah.
So when you say other organizations raise funds so you can exist, can you tell us a little bit more about that partnership and who they are?
Sometimes we didn't even know who they are, and sometimes we didn't even know they raise funds for us until they reach out and say we had this fundraiser.
Oh, wonderful!
It's that's how much they believe in your mission. That's how much they believe in what you're doing, what you ladies are doing.
Yeah.
So, wait, are there instruments or are there things in music that are associated like more with male musicians than female? Like imagine the drums, maybe
the cliche or the myth.
Are there what are those things that you guys have run into that are kind of like this is kind of a male dominated area?
Well, for me personally, like I came up in the hardcore punk scene, and so you don't see a lot of women playing aggressive music, right? Screaming, you know, hitting the drums really hard, or just being as uninhibited as males. You know, that's still something that needs a lot of work.
And when it does happen, I imagine that the reaction is, you know, kind of like, oh, like that's different.
Like a unicorn.
It's the genre, yeah. It's that genre that girls can also play as heavy as males.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead, Muna.
No, I was just going to say that I think that's why I kind of subconsciously chose to play the drums, because it was that instrument that, you know, I mean, I think people look at me and don't assume that's something that I play. I'm very small.
And it's always, I imagine it's you get a kick out of surprising people when you're like rocking out and they're like, like, whoa, Moon, I didn't know that was you.
Yeah, I think there is an element of surprise when it comes to that, but I think it's exciting for a lot of people because I think they see me behind a kit and they think, well, you know,
behind a what?
A kit.
A drum kit. I don't know, guys. I don't know.
Angelica, you a heathen.
I know. You say drum, and I understand, but she's using terminology on me.
Like in my situation, like a few years ago, I was in an all-girl band called The Busy Kids, and I played guitar, and people were really fascinated because we were jumping around and, you know, just having fun, and people don't normally associate that with women playing music. Usually they just tend to think of, like, you know, singer-songwriter, acoustic guitars, and, you know, poppy, pretty stuff.
So do you ever perform in front of your students, and do they, and what's their reaction?
I know, that's right, yeah.
I try not to. Okay. I don't really feel like I have anything to show off or prove.
Right.
So I kind of like to stay in the background.
But do you expose them to that, like, you know, seeing women that are doing it? And how do they react to that? Like,
there are volunteers that will play sometimes, like during lunch, and I think it's really exciting for the girls to see their instructors in a band and performing, because they kind of then see, wow, you know, this is kind of what they've been instructing, but, you know,
it's sort of like breaking through to that other side, like, wow, they can actually, they're like rock stars,
it's kind
and
of
they're accessible,
it's like breaking
and
down
they're
a
here.
stereotype of them, right? I mean,
and that's why we have all-female instructors and band coaches, because we want young girls to be exposed to women in positions of mentorship and power, so they can get used to it like it's normal.
That's why I'm self-taught.
Yeah.
Because I feared that interaction or dynamic, and I actually learned a lot from YouTube, and it's funny because even on YouTube, I sought out a woman that was instructing drums through her channel, just because I felt like a lot of the men on YouTube say that they're, giving instruction or giving lessons, and really they're just showing off. So.
But it's amazing how gender bias, even if you're not conscious of it, actually does come into play with everything. There's a Malcolm Gladwell book, I think it's Blink, where he talks about the things that influence how you make a decision. There's an entire chapter about a symphony that had to go with blind auditions, like literally behind a curtain, not say the name of the person, not indicate in any way if it was a male or a female, for the people who were making the selection to actually remove the gender bias. And they found that, in fact, more women actually got positions in the symphony, even to the point where they had someone that got chosen who was someone who would sit in for like the regular players that they never even considered, and it was a female. She was fabulous and they loved her, but it wasn't until they removed the bias of seeing that it was a woman, which all of them had thought didn't influence them at all. So I mean, there is a bias out there whether we like it or not. Yeah. So, what are the requirements to participate, other than the fee, for if you're 8 to 18, what do they have to bring?
Themselves.
That's
it.
No prior experience, no anything like that.
And talk to us a little bit about when you go in, like what do you
learn?
That
was
like
gonna be my question.
What's the experience like for a student going in? Like walk us through it, because there's somebody that's never been to summer camp,
right? So
or rock camp.
On the first day of camp, we have a morning assembly. For the past couple of years, we've actually been forming the bands for the girls prior to camp. It just saves a lot of time, and it helps us with instruments and gear. So we form the bands for them. So in the mornings, we usually have workshops, and then we split off into musical instruction, and they have a choice between 5 different instruments: vocals, guitar, bass, drums, and keyboards. And so they all go to their individual musical instruction, and they do that until lunch. And then during lunch, we usually have a local band come and perform for them. Cool. And then after lunch, we split them into 2 different tracks because of the age range. So we have like the minor chords, which are the 8 through 12-year-olds, and the major chords, which are the 13 through 18-year-olds. And so while one track is in band practice, the other track are attending workshops. And then we flip that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I do know that you said that you guys are all volunteers. So could I volunteer, even though I love music, but I don't play an instrument? Can I volunteer?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Could you guys talk a little bit about what you need?
So you don't need any musical knowledge whatsoever.
So I can go.
Yeah, absolutely, because there's space for everyone. There's so many different roles during camp that don't involve music, because as you know, like an organization needs a lot of different hands to run it, and it could be anything from food to babysitting. We provide childcare during the week, and it could be checking the volunteers in and out. So there are definitely many opportunities for all kinds of volunteers. So.
How does, if someone's interested in volunteering, where do they get more information?
Our website, www.girlsrockhouston.org. There's a tab specifically for volunteers. You click on it, and it has all of the positions available and a description of each position.
For the girls out there who are actually interested in participating in the camp, I know that registration is still underway.
Yes.
And when does it close?
June 30th.
June 30th. And also through the website?
Yes.
And before we let you guys go, I did want to ask, if there's to the listeners out there that are listening and they're saying, "That's so awesome! I want to do that too. I want to do something like this." What are your words to them?
It's international. It's national and international.
I believe I read it's an alliance, correct?
Right. Yeah, we're part of an alliance. I started the camp and I had no idea what to do. All I knew was that we needed money, and then pulling people. I started asking people if they're interested in helping me, and that's when people started getting involved. It's just having the funds and having people with the passion and dedication to see it through.
Okay.
It's just basically having the follow through.
So
Nice.
so build a community and join a community is really the message.
I mean, it's very DIY, like very punk rock ethic. As far as starting your own camp, anyone can do it.
Nice.
Any
Nice.
parting words?
Don't be afraid to be weird.
Oh, I like
That's
that.
our camp
Oh
theme
my
song.
God, that's awesome.
I like
Don't be
that.
afraid to be weird. All right.
So for everybody who's out there and you want to participate, please, as mentioned, the website will put it on the links down below. And on that note, thank you so much, ladies, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We invite you to check out our iTunes and our Stitcher channels and leave us a rating or a review. You can find the link to both channels at thelittleradioshow.com.